In Monday night's English language leaders debate, immigration was given the importance and significance in this election that it's due. A robust and at times tense discussion on immigration took over the stage, with a great many people, including one of the moderator's questions, taking aim at Maxime Bernier and the People's Party of Canada's position on immigration and on extreme multiculturalism. The PPC wants to cut immigration into Canada roughly by half at 150,000, with a priority on economic immigrants and those who share Canadian values. Now, the idea of Canadian values and immigration is a contentious issue. It's something that Stephen Harper was pilloried for dancing near, and Kelly Leitch was absolutely eviscerated by the media for talking about values-based immigration screening. But in the post-debate scrum, one thing that Maxime Bernier brought up is that he would like to see a return to mandatory face-to-face screening, which would include screening for Canadian values of all immigrants. I asked the question in two parts, actually. The first was on if you're screening for values and the economic migrants are the ones being prioritized, why do you need to cut the numbers? And the second logical step to that is, what does it mean to screen for values? How do you mandate and how do you do that enforcement? Here's that exchange between Maxime Bernier and I.
Mr. Bernier, Andrew Lawton from True North. You have talked about the need to prioritize economic immigrants and immigrants that share Canadian values because that's the way to integrate immigrants into Canada. You've also talked about the need to cut immigration numbers. Why do you need to cut the numbers if the immigrants you're bringing in are, by your own metric of success, better suited for integration?
Yeah, first of all, as you know, we want to be sure that we'll have people that will come here and share our Canadian values. But the most important, it is easier for a new Canadian to be part of our society when they have a job, and it's easier for that person to integrate our society. So right now, I think we're having 328,000 newcomers a year. We want to have fewer immigrants, 150,000 a year. That will be the maximum. But the most important, not 26% of them must be economic immigrants, a person that is coming here because we need their skill. So we need to increase that ratio, that proportion. And my proposal is to have at least 50% of our newcomers, they must be economic immigrants. They must come here because we need that person to be able to fulfill our economic needs.
How do you propose to either mandate or screen for Canadian values?
First of all, we need to have a face-to-face interview with each one of them, and we'll have that. And second, yes, we'll have some questions about their values, and I think that's normal to do that. We want people who share our Canadian values. We want people who believe in freedom, in free markets, in the equality between men and women, equality before the law, the separation of state and religious. So, yeah, let's have a discussion with them. And that's why we are proposing an interview where we will ask these kind of questions.
So what Maxime Bernier is calling for is a return to that mandatory face-to-face interview, which right now is a part of the immigration system at times, but is not mandatory and is not guaranteed. It was in Canada for the longest time until the previous Liberal government, before Stephen Harper, had gotten rid of it as a cost-saving measure. But anyone who's worked in the immigration system will tell you that the officers say it works. Human intelligence is the greatest asset we have in our intelligence agencies, our national security, and our law enforcement. And that intelligence comes from talking to people, among many other things. Oftentimes, people will out themselves as being a problem if you give them the opportunity to do so. So when Maxime Bernier comes out and says this, it's a very sensible policy, but one that hasn't been talked about, probably because of the media's evisceration of Kelly Leitch for bringing up the idea of Canadian values when she was running for the Conservative leadership. Although Andrew Scheer is in a very unique position right now. Despite left-wing parties' claims that talking about immigration in a way that is critical of the current government's record is racist or bigoted in some way, Andrew Scheer is actually the favorite of Canadians when it comes to handling the immigration file. An Angus Reid poll found that more people thought Andrew Scheer was better suited to deal with immigration than any other party leader, including the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. Moreover, 56%, more than half of respondents, found that Justin Trudeau has been too lax and too soft, effectively, on asylum seekers. And we've seen literally the visual representations of this as people have flooded across the border illegally, and the federal government has done nothing about it. You can't have a strong country without a strong and robust immigration system. Whether you think that this means slashing the numbers in half, as Bernier has suggested, or even doing things a bit smartly, it's apparent that Canadians are not happy with the status quo. So the Liberals, the New Democrats, have to stop insulting and attacking those who are critical of their file, because that's the majority of Canadians right now. From the campaign trail in Mississauga for True North, I'm Andrew Lawton.